Ladies and gentlemen, uniquely unqualified podcast take two, where we go over one subject to create easier and more consumable content for you. But first, please like and subscribe. Even if you don't watch the content or you're not favored to it, subscribe anyway. We'll fall to the bottom of your algorithm, and the most you see of me is my goofy face as I post up a video. We're going to talk about a former Marine intelligence officer by the name of Scott Ritter. He was on the Jimmy Dore podcast, and he was discussing the Iran war and where he thinks that this is going to go, Trump's off-ramp, etc. So, a little bit about Scott Ritter, former Marine Corps intelligence officer, weapons inspector, author, qualified guy to be having these opinions. He's just not out there running around on legacy media. But he's on there on the Jimmy Dore show. And if you want to listen to what he has to say, jump into the podcast sphere, because that's where these kinds of folks are residing. I would challenge greatly that any talking head that goes on legacy media, minus somebody like a Dave Smith or a Jimmy Dore, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because real people don't exist in that sphere. Real people are here on the internet watching content for stuff like this, hot takes, hot opinions, or analysis from a qualified guy like Scott Ritter. So, what happened? The US bombed Iran, and I think the overall plan would just be pummel them until they don't have a choice but to say, "Uncle, that we surrendered." Well, that hasn't exactly happened, either by design or we just didn't hit them hard enough. I don't know, but apparently Donald Trump called Vladimir Putin, the Prime Minister of Russia. Why? Because Russia is an economic ally with Iran. And Donald Trump needs to get the fuck out of this conflict with Iran ASAP. And so how do you do that? Well, you should probably call somebody that, ain't exactly your friend, that's not exactly the enemy, and we're going to make a deal. And we're going to Donald Trump released oil sanctions on Russia because not a lot of oil is coming out of the Middle East right now. So they lift oil sanctions on Russia. So now Russian oil is getting out into the region, to the world. What is that? That is a negotiating and a bargaining chip in good faith, so that Vladimir Putin can go to the government of Iran and start negotiating a little bit of a deal. Because right now, say what you want about Russia and Vladimir Putin, it does seem that Vladimir Putin is a true patriot to his country. The word patriot is not reserved for Americans. You have Mexican patriots, Russian patriots, Ukrainian patriots, English patriots, Scottish patriots, Iranian patriots. A patriot is somebody that just loves their damn country, and they'll fight for their country and what it stands for. So, Trump calls Putin, says, "I'll start off with this, we'll release your sanctions." It seems to be that Iran just wants sanctions lifted as well. We'll get there. But right now, because Donald Trump campaigned, especially with the Ukraine thing, I'll have this ended in 24 hours. Well, that didn't happen. The Israel-Gaza thing, that didn't end in 24 hours. The sights just changed over to fucking Iran. So now, Israel levels Gaza, assumably to create a resort, essentially. Trump says, "Oh, I'm going to end that." But he doesn't end that. He lets Israel drag us into some bullshit with Iran. It's not actually just Israel dragging us into some bullshit with Iran. It's also a lot of donors, a lot of influence. And as I said before, this Iran thing was Donald Trump's tithe for his pay to play as the president of the United States, for whomever's pulling that string. So Putin is the only person, and Xi in China, because also remember last week, the US offered escort assistance for Chinese oil tankers to go through the Strait of Hormuz as well. So Trump and Putin are talking to find an off-ramp to all this. And it would be good. This isn't my take, this is Scott Ritter's take. This would be good. I agree with Scott Ritter. I think he's right. So Putin is the only one really with the ability to negotiate any of the de-escalation here. Because right now, Iran has little to nothing except for their heart to fight with. That's all they got. We got 2,500 Marines just chilling outside that Karg Island off the Persian Gulf of Iran, just waiting to go in and occupy area. We've decimated their drone program. We've decimated their missile program. We've decimated their Navy. We've decimated their Air Force. We've killed over 50 of their leaders. They're fucking done. But places and people, regimes like that do not accept loss in a fight. They fight until the fucking death. There is no negotiation. The way that the United States is doing this, there was never going to be Iranian negotiation. So we need Vladimir Putin to step in and say, y'all, nobody actually wants this. But you're all fucked up right now, and you need to give concessions to the United States. So how do we do that? Same thing with Ukraine. Putin's the only person at this point that can end Ukraine. Trump can't do shit about Ukraine. Putin can. Now, what would this do? If, and I think that this is actually going to be the move that happens, it's going to get swept under the rug. Nobody in America is going to hear about it. Why? Because if you actually dug into the whole thing, Trump's a panicking. He is calling somebody that you Americans have been told for decades now that Russia is your biggest enemy. They're the fucking devil. They're the... Well, what's Trump doing calling Putin then? For help. For help. So we can't tell the American people about that. Track it. All right? Putin, the stalemate that is Ukraine, don't make any actual, redrawing of lines or whatever. He's already got the coastal region of Ukraine. He's already got the Crimea. He had it before. He's got it again now. And so, keep in mind, it's the Ukraine. The U.S. sponsors their government, but it's the Ukraine. It means a borderland. It is disputed land, has been for a long time. Same thing with Gaza or the concept of a nation state called Palestine. On a map, there isn't a country of Palestine. There are Palestinian people. There is an area that Israel occupies that was once upon a time known as Palestine. But as far as where Palestine exists on a map, it's hashed out in red hashes across these borders because they're contested land areas. So Ukraine is the exact same thing. Putin can pull the plug on this at any time. At any time. He can say, okay, we're done. But he's going to get what he wants. And this, man, you want to talk about making the Russians look good. This would be even better than World War II for the Russians. By the way, the Russians actually started the end of World War II. The Russians freed German Jews in the East, not Americans. Just a little quick history lesson for you there. So, Vladimir Putin's going to step up. He's going to negotiate with these guys. There's already liaisons from the Russians talking in Miami, Florida, with Trump cabinet officials about how to get an off-ramp and how to get out of this. And so you're not going to hear this in America as Trump called Putin and, Putin solved the problem. What you're going to hear is Donald Trump jumping up and down and saying, look at me, I did it. I'm the world's greatest peacekeeper. I ended the war in Iran. We went in, we decimated them, we got out, and I ended the war in Ukraine, and now we're all out of wars, and I'm the most peaceful president of all time, and what? Give me my Nobel Peace Prize. So that's really what's going on. It's not necessarily that Donald Trump is actioning anything for peace. Well, it is going to result in peace, but it's not for peace. It's to save his ass and get out of this fucking frying pan that we're in right now. So let's hope to God that Vladimir Putin can step up and help us out. But goddamn, could you imagine what that guy's got on us for the future, especially for stabilization and economy in the region. We'll see. Uniquely Unqualified Podcast Take Two. We'll see you next time.